Hey, Larry, you good to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go. Did you press record? I didn't get that recording thing.
All good.
All
When you're
right.
ready.
All good. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Okay, I am not in the speaker, so I'm going to spotlight myself. Here we go. Am I showing up as a spotlight? Come on.
Yep, you look good.
See. Okay. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Okay, I'm just waiting for everybody to join in. I think, oh my God, we are full packed today. Hello, everybody. Am I spotlight for everybody? All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and happy Wednesday. My name is Leigh Bella Ralston. I'm also known as Mommy Leigh on the internet. And today is a very, very exciting class because I get to share with you the brand new bounce lettering kit from Faber-Castell. And this is what we have. This is what I have in front of me. And I know that some of you don't have this, and it's okay. We can do the class without the kit, but the kits are going to be available at Michael's very, very soon. It's going to be online and both locally. So you might want to check your local Michael's if they're available and they're already okay. So hello, everyone. All right, now is my mic working? Can you guys all see me? Make sure everything is okay. All right, we're all good. Good, 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 good. Okay, so for this class, like what I said, I want to share with you the bounce lettering kit from Faber-Castell. This is something that I collaborated with them. I created 4 kits with Faber-Castell, and the last 2 weeks I was able to share the first 2, which is the Kawaii World and Enchanted Forest. And today we're looking at the bounce lettering kit. This is a lettering kit, and in this kit you will receive the workbook. This is a 5x7 worksheet. You get lots and lots in here. We'll flip through that so we can see what's inside. You get 3 markers. This is the brand new Faber-Castell Goldfaber Aqua dual marker. So dual markers, that means it comes with 2 tips, right? You get 1 brush tip, and then you get a 0.3 or 0.4 tip on the other. So you get 2 tips in here, and this is a water-based dye inks. And we're gonna go learn about more of the water-based dye inks in a little bit. So let's look at the back in here. Oh, look at that, that's me, yay. So we have 40-page activity book, 30 pages of instruction. We have 10 pages of tracing paper, and you also get 2 sticker sheets in this kit. You get 3 Goldfaber Aqua dual markers, and then 1 graphite pencil, and then a soft eraser, right? But for the purpose of the video, sometimes the camera is having a hard time picking up my sketch. So this time I'm using a 2B, which is just a much more darker graphite instead of the regular HB. And the colors that you're going to get in this kit would be dark cadmium orange 115. You will also receive the leaf green 112 and light purple pink 128. All right, so let's look at the workbook. You get a table of contents. You will learn about the Goldfaber markers in here, the brush tip explains the brush tip, the 0.6. I apologize. It is a 0.6 tip. All right. So for that fine tip, that's a 0.6. And then you get the flexible brush tip on the other. There we go. Bounce lettering. What is bounce lettering? Bounce lettering is a style of script lettering that doesn't stay within the rules of calligraphy. And I show you some examples in here in this workbook. So this is really like a workbook and also a book at the same time, because you get a lot of information and you get lots of sample work that you can trace and practice with, but there's a lot of information in this kit. So let's just learn a little bit about the bounce lettering before we get started. It is, again, bounce lettering is a style of script lettering that doesn't stay within the rules of calligraphy. Because traditional calligraphy, you will have the same height of each letter, you will have the same width, and you have that straight line. That's the rules. But when it comes to bounce lettering, in bounce lettering, you are encouraged, highly encouraged, to get creative with the height, the flourishes and the spacing of the letters. I I should say that the reason why it inspired me to create the bounce lettering is because this is my style of lettering. Um, I love to cook. I do not bake because I have troubles following directions. So within the calligraphy, I have trouble following within that traditional style of calligraphy. And the way I do my lettering, I love to be creative. I like to play around with the height. See, everything is just kind of go all over the place, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's highly encouraged that you start being creative. And also, this is one way to start finding your style of lettering. You might want to start with the traditional if this is, your first time, or say, I really just want to learn how to do my calligraphy. Then calligraphy is very different than hand lettering. Because I always say this, when it comes to hand lettering is actually when you are drawing your letters. And I want to show you that. I'm using a sketch pad. If you guys have any pad, smooth paper, copy paper that you can use, just so we can practice a little bit of strokes and all that. I have all my practice lettering here so you can see, I have lots. I think this is my 13-year-old daughter practicing too. All right, Lee, come on, let's go find something here. Oh, wow. So this is just a sketch pad, but I love it because it has a very smooth surface, which means it's not going to hurt my pens after a while, because I do personally write really heavy. So that means I really add a lot of pressure when I'm writing. And which means if I'm using a paper that is, inexpensive and doesn't have a good quality, it means it's going to have some tooth and textures, and then it's going to hurt my brush pen after a while, because again, I write heavy. All right. So when it comes to hand lettering, it's important to understand first that when you're hand lettering, you're really not just writing. Okay. This is my hand writing. I love to always do this as an example because this is the first thing that you want to really think about. Because I get a lot of comments where, oh, this is it. I will never learn it because my handwriting is not really good. Well, guess what? Handwriting and hand lettering are two different things. I'm going to use the fine tip and I'm going to do my handwriting also. And this is me going to try a little bit to write neat. All right. But notice the speed when I was doing my handwriting. But this is going to be the speed once I start doing my hand lettering. That's the first one, the speed. The second one, notice how I'm holding my pen when I'm doing my handwriting. Right? My pen is almost like this, handwriting. This is me with a little bit more speed. So as you can see, it's getting, this is not pretty, right? But the moment I change the way I would hold my marker, notice how it's not like this anymore. It's not upside down like this. It's going to be slightly slanted. It's almost 45-degree angled. This is very important. It doesn't matter if you hold it in the middle, if you hold it between your middle finger or pointer finger, just as long as it is slightly slanted, like almost 45-degree angle, like this. I like to hold my markers like this. It's almost like a tripod. See, I have 3 in here that is in control. This is the 3 fingers that has almost all the control in my marker. This is where it sits, or sometimes in my pinky. It kind of like holds it in place, the two of that together. But this is where everything is going to move. All right. So when we're writing, we learned about this, that the handwriting and hand lettering are two different things. Second, the position of how you hold your markers is very important. The third is when you are writing, I should stop saying writing because hand lettering is drawing your letters. So when you're drawing your letters, it's all about the pressure. Okay. So when we're writing, just regular writing. We don't really care about how much pressure we're applying, when we're writing a letter A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay. But when we're doing a brush lettering, it's all about that pressure because we are trying to mimic the look of the old calligraphy. Calligraphy is that beautiful style of script lettering. It's that old times where you use the nib, but we're trying to copy that using a brush pen. And how do we get that? When the brush pen, it's all about the pressure. Now, two things. One thing is the light. This is important. Upstroke. This is your light pressure, and you will get all these information in the book. And also, this is your downstroke, or this is where you apply heavy pressure. Okay. So based on the word, you can see that upstroke. This is when you write away from your body. This is your upstroke. So every time you would write away from you, like this, apply very light pressure. So every time you would write away from your body, this is your upstroke, and this is when you will apply your light pressure, correct? So when you're writing towards your body or your pen is going towards you, this is your downstroke, and this is when you will apply heavy pressure. So I will start with my upstroke, up, and then down. Notice how I am pressing on a little bit. See? Up, light, heavy, down. Now, it takes a lot of practice. This is something that I think it's very important to understand. You might not leave this class feeling so, I know what I'm doing, or I'm already rewarded and look at my lettering. It doesn't happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight in life. Everything, it takes practice and dedication. And I think it's important to really understand that, because I don't want you to get frustrated, because once you start feeling frustrated that I will never get it, I will never learn it, that's when you become overwhelmed, and it doesn't bring you joy anymore, then I think you should stop, because where's the purpose of that, right? As long as you're enjoying it, I want you to keep practicing. So again, let's go back to the stroke, because this is really important before we get started with our letters. So upstroke, again, is light pressure. Every time you would write away from you is upstroke. Every time you would write towards you is heavy, and that's your downstroke. Okay, let's look at some of the basic strokes in here. You're going to see we started with the thin and the thick strokes. I explained it here. Now, there are some basic strokes that you're going to need to form your letters. I think this one is really important. I really don't recommend you skipping on the basic strokes, because I know I was guilty of this when I was first getting started, and I wanted to jump right in with my letters already. But I think it's important that you allow yourself to really practice the basic strokes, because you're going to realize that your letters are composed of these basic strokes. Now, let's just look at them quickly. We have overturn, which is like a letter U upside down, right? The next one is underturn, which is a letter U. That means, but notice how in the overturn, you start with doing your upstroke first. So you can see the arrow in here, it goes up, so that's light. And then you apply pressure and it becomes thicker. So the underturn, the next stroke, is the opposite. You start with going down and you apply pressure, and you go really light and use the tip of your marker to create your thinner strokes. That's your underturn. The next one is the compound curve. This one is the step up, which means you're going to combine both the overturn and the underturn. You go light up, heavy, and then go light again. This is a really good one to practice. Now, some of the comments that I always get is that, Lay, I don't see a difference from my thin and my thick strokes, which is very normal. I was always struggling with my thin or my upstroke. It is because I personally write heavy. I have heavy pressure. So, of course, I was struggling with that thin stroke. I was struggling to go really light with the heavy, with the downstroke, easy, easy breezy. I go apply pressure, but this time where it gets tricky, because if you're going to hold it close to the end, I want you to notice this, pay attention a little bit, and then try to go upstroke. Notice that there's not a whole lot of difference with my thick and my thin line, right? When you're lettering, when you're doing hand lettering, it's important to understand that, look at this, the way I'm holding and twisting my pen, I move it around my finger. It's almost like being a magician at some point, because when you're doing your downstroke, it's either you stop in the middle and you use the tip to create your thin stroke. But what if you want to do it without stopping in the middle? That's a good question. So this is where you're going to have to adjust your position or the way you hold your pens and your markers. So you maybe not try to do it where it's super slanted. It's a little hard to explain it. You're using the tip and also the body, but at the same time, you want to go thin. So this is how I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden, I'm almost kind of like just not stopping, but stopping. Does that make sense? Stop, but really just drag the tip. So you don't want to here visibly show that you stop. Although you can fix it, kind of go over it again. But the purpose of practicing your strokes is that so that you can build muscle memory. Because once you have that muscle memory and you don't have to repeat it in your head over and over, that I'm going down, I need to apply heavy pressure, or I'm going up, I need to apply light pressure. After a while, your brain and your hand coordination will be in sync and you already know what to do. But in the very beginning, you might have to repeat it over and over. Down, heavy, up, light, down, heavy, up, light, right? So at first, for example, you still cannot have the perfect transition, or I don't think there's a perfect transition, smooth transition, let's say, from your heavy to your light, because this is where I struggle the most. And this is where I want to be honest with you, because I think it's important that you understand that it's not always perfect for me either. But when I do my overturn, this is easier. Look at this. I go light and I go heavy. See how I can do it in one? I go light, I go heavy. But if I switch from heavy to light, it's a little bit struggle. So even when I do my oval stroke, heavy again, and I go light like this. So heavy body of your pen, and then go light. It's almost like lifting it up. So I want you to try that, whichever brush pen you're using. So apply your thick stroke and almost like lifting up your pen to create that tip or to create that thin line. I'm going to do it again. So apply pressure here and then lifting, almost lifting that brush to just go really light. Let's try that again. So try this oval. So heavy and then go lift and then try to go as light as you can. Now, to answer that comment that I always get, there's not a whole lot of difference from my thin and my thick. This is a perfect example of that. There's not a whole lot of visual difference in this one. See how my thick is almost just as thick as my thin? This one is perfect. You can really see the difference of my thick stroke to my thin stroke. So I'm going to try that again. If you have to pause, don't be so hard on yourself. It's okay. And then just continue. I apologize. It wasn't in camera. Let's do that again. I wasn't frame. So again, almost dragging, and I'm just going to go lift it. You know what? There is no shame of that. So I stopped almost, not really in the middle, but just almost where the transition to my light begins. I'm going to switch the way I would hold my marker. Instead of a 45-degree angle, I'm going to lift it up and then use the tip of that brush pen to create a thinner strokes. All right. So let's go look at some of the basic strokes again before we move forward. So we have the overturn, we have the underturn. And in this kit, there's also, it comes with a tracing sheet. So you don't have to do this. And if you just want to buy like tracing sheets and put it on top of this so you can practice your strokes over and over, I think it's really is a good idea. Diane said, what I'm finding as a left-handed is writing the letters right to the left is much better. Wow, that's a good share. Diane said that if you are a left-handed, and I get this comment a lot also, and I've tried writing on my left, it's not easy, you guys, because your brain, I think it's different the way it works. So I tried doing it regularly how, for example, I do the oval, right? So if I'm going to write, apply the pressure, and I'm going to lift and still drag, look at that is bad. But I think it's the same principle. Apply your heavy pressure when you're doing your downstroke, and then lift and still use the tip of that marker to finish it. But how do you usually write your words? You still start with the first letter, right? So for example, angel, I'm going to go put my A in here and lift it up and connect it. No, this is impossible. I can't do it. This is not, I'm going to lose my job. I cannot write in my left hand. But see, Diane said, she said, writing the letters from right to left is much better. So did you start, Diane, with your thin stroke? That's one thing I want to understand. So if we're doing the like this, did you start with your thin first and then do the thick? So she said, I started at the bottom of the circle, up, right, and down left. Yeah, okay. So there you go. So to everybody that's left-handed, please check out the comments because Diane shared really great knowledge for everyone. Okay, so Petra has a question here. How do the Faber-Castell markers compare to the Tombow water-based markers? Actually, they are almost similar. They use water-based dye. So dye inks are more saturated. They are not like, excuse me. They are the same, they are a different formula than the Faber-Castell Albert Dürer markers. So these are the Albert Dürer that has a dual tip as well. Oh, I have a little bit of white things in here. I'm gonna clean out. So the Albert Dürer watercolor markers are watercolor pigments. The new Faber-Castell Goldfaber Aqua are water-based dye inks. The Tombow has a bullet tip. This one has a finer tip. This has a 0.6, and the Tombow dual brush has a bullet 1.5 tip. So that is the difference. But yes, they are blendable. They're flexible, the brush pens. And I feel like for beginners, I can highly suggest using a brush pen that isn't so flexible, because if you have heavy pressure like I do, when I'm doing my thinner strokes or my upstrokes, it was more of a struggle when I'm using a very flexible brush pen. I hope that makes sense. All right, so now that we have talked about our basic strokes, I want to start first with connecting your letters. All right, because I think this is one thing that a lot of people do not discuss, because when we're writing letters, when you see letters individually, when we're writing the letters individually, it's really easy to say, okay, here's how I do my letter A, you know, and then we're going to do the small a. I think what I want to focus on today is connecting your letters, because this is where it gets harder when you're writing words already, or when you're writing your names, right? So the traditional lettering would be, if I write my name, L, H. Notice the speed. This is where you can tell that I am now drawing my letters. I am not just doing handwriting. I'm doing hand lettering because I'm drawing each of that letters. Now, this is a traditional. Now, if I want to write my name in a bounce lettering style, again, bounce lettering is just going against the basic rules of the calligraphy, which means in the letters, you have to have the same height, the same width. But when you're doing bounce lettering, you can play around. I am going to write it as L. I go up if I want to. It's almost like dancing. Notice how free flowing also the bounce lettering is. It's not just boxed in where it looks so uniform. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with the traditional hand lettering. It's lovely, just lovely as the bounce lettering. But with bounce lettering, I think when I was first practicing hand lettering, which was 10, 11 years ago, like what I said, I know that I write personally heavy and big. And that's where it got to a point where it became so frustrating because I would normally write my letters so big and I was struggling to really create that beautiful traditional calligraphy style. So I was just playing around and just writing it how I felt like it. And little did I know that there's a term for it, which is the bounce lettering. All right. So I would like you to notice even the traditional and the bounce lettering. This is the connecting. I'm going to go point it out. I'm going to use a different marker here. These are your connecting loops or strokes, right? And I think this is where the question always comes in. How do I connect the letter A to the letter, whichever word you're writing? It is basically kind of like prepping yourself to understanding the word. Let's say we're going to write the word love, right? I know that after the L, the letter L, I'm going to write the letter O. So it's the positioning of your connecting strokes. I'm going to write the letter L. Knowing that I have a letter O next, do I want to connect it with the O or do I want to write the letter O separately like this? Or do I want to connect it? So it's almost like setting up your connecting stroke to the next letter that you're going to be drawing. So yes, I do want to connect it. Now I know that I have a letter V. So set it up again where you extend your loop like this. And I start my letter V. Now, how do I connect it to the letter E? Set up your connecting like this to the letter E. So you don't want it too close to one another. I'll show you an example. I think these are the important ones because if you really want to learn the basic of brush lettering, I created a class in the past that you can check out on Michael's YouTube. There's a lot of basic, but I almost wanted to skip those part and really show you how to connect your letters because I think that's where a lot of, us struggle with. So that's my letter E. I'm going to show you where you don't prep it so much, how if you don't set up your connecting where it becomes a struggle. This is the beginners that I see. Okay, what do we notice? We don't have that extension. We don't have those extenders or our connecting strokes. So we want to have connecting strokes to connect the letters to form the word. Does that make sense? So you have that LOV in there. So now I'm going to show you another example. Some of the letters that I find hard to connect would be letter X. I dislike using that because for some reason I always have a hard time following it or using a connecting stroke. So let's say example, because there's a letter X in here. So I'm going to do my E. Again, two things that are important: heavy pressure going down and light pressure going up, right? So going down, heavy. Another thing that I want to say is don't be afraid to really bend your markers to create that stroke. Before we do this, how about I show you an example of what I'm talking about so I don't lose my my thoughts. So this is going to be a problem when you don't hold your pen 45-degree angle like this. I'm going to try and create a word, but not holding it slanting. Okay. And I will show you the difference of my thick and my thin stroke. And I'm going to ruin this marker because this is not how you're supposed to do it, but I want to show you. Even when I'm applying heavy and light, mind you, okay? But just by not holding it slanted, it's going to look so different. Notice how you can not even see the difference from the thin and thick line. Maybe here you can. What happens is that you're not able to really get and take advantage of the width of the body of the brush when you don't hold it slanted like this. So I'm going to try and write it. Notice how I'm able to use the tip for the thin and really bend this marker and create like a thick line like that. And then thin again. So I want you to practice this where you hold your marker upside down, like how you would normally write, and then try it where your hands is slanted 45-degree from the paper and do your lettering. So this is more of a traditional lettering here because we have the same height of my small letters like that. And then I'm going to show you an example of the same word, example, but written in a balanced lettering style. Jody said, I looked for the Kawaii World kit at my local Michael's. Yeah, they probably don't have it in stock yet, but they should have it very, very soon. That is the last information that I received from Faber-Castell. Okay, so now it's all about the setting up your connecting strokes. So I have my E and my X. And again, like what I said, I dislike the letter X. Personally, I have some issues with it because it's just so hard to connect it with other letters. So A, M, and again, aside from the way you would hold your markers, another thing that is very important to understand is that I would like for you to change the way you think about hand lettering. I've explained that handwriting and hand lettering are two different things. So when we're thinking about drawing the letters, what happens is that we see the letters as is and how we've normally been writing it for forever. Now, when you're drawing, there are many different ways that you can draw each letter. For example, the word example here, I can write this or I can draw it. I can draw it totally different than this one and it will just still look okay. In bounce lettering, it's also encouraged to play around with the style of your letters. And this is when you are going to find out your own personal style. I personally like to mix my printed letters, you've heard it right, print letters with my script letters when I'm doing bounce lettering. And I'll show you an example. So, for example, in real life, I don't usually use this letter E. I would normally write my letter E this way. So I like to mix my print and my script all together in a bounce lettering way where I play around with the height, the size of my letters. And even in the middle of a word, I still apply it where I would use a capital L instead of a small l. And it still looks good. I mean, at least to me personally, I just really like that look. Now, when do you start building or creating your own style? I think in the very beginning, we all try to fake it until we make it. And I think it really is just, it's given because we look at so much information. There's so much information online. There are so many examples, social media, you see a lot of references of how, an artist would letter the word or a quote and all that. So you have so much information that you digest every day. We were being fed to us, and it's really hard to not compare. And I am guilty of this as well. Even now that I'm already doing, I created a book, I created a worksheet, and I feel like sometimes, you know what, it doesn't look good. I feel like the way this person does it is so much better. When you start embracing how your letters look like to you or how your art look like to you, that's when you start building some character to it, because that point it's going to be okay. So at the point where you say, you know what, this is okay. I like it where I use a capital L in the middle of a letter, and it's not, I'm not, no one's trying to grade this where it's like it's wrong because you don't use a capital in the middle of a word, so but the moment you accept that I'm okay with my ABCs, the way I write them, it doesn't matter if it has too much flourish or it doesn't have enough flourish. When you start embracing your own art, then you start adding your own touch to it. I know that's a very bad explanation, but that's just the only way I can explain it. The moment I have learned to embrace my lettering, when I felt like it was enough, and the more I practice, the more I discovered things about what I really like personally, instead of looking at a sample and say, I like the way she did that letter G. I'm going to do my letter G's like that. But maybe you will embrace it and maybe it becomes your letter G too. And art is subjective. I think it's very important to understand it. Art is subjective, so you looking at something to me looks not really good, but to others that's excellent. That's where it's important to understand that you have to love what you're doing first and stop comparing it to others. But it's okay to have an example. It's okay to have, references, but learn to practice it and add your own touch to it and it becomes yours. All right. So we've covered basic strokes, super important, downstroke and heavy strokes, right? So the upstroke light, the downstroke heavy. We talked about precision and holding our markers, super important. Speed is very important. Understanding that we're not writing, we're doing it one stroke at a time. Connecting the letters, very important. Next, now let's try to do our alphabet. We're going to do it fast. Luke said, I agree. As a direct message to me. I agree with that, a message. Okay, so let's do our alphabet in here. I would write my alphabet the way I would write it in real life. Okay, so it might not be the original traditional calligraphy with all the flourishes, but this is how I like doing it. But what's important is for you guys to analyze the letters, the difference from the thin and the thick, because that's what brush lettering is all about. All right, so let's do our letter A. Thin stroke. That's another one that I want to share with you, is that sometimes when I'm doing a thin stroke, I've noticed that when I try to go super slow, the more it becomes like shaky. Do you notice that? That when you're doing like an upstroke and you try to go super slow, it becomes even more shaky. It's like jagged, wicked, jaggedy lines. And I don't like that. So notice how I did my stroke much faster, because I felt like that really did make a big difference. It's not so shaky anymore. But when I try to go super slow, sometimes, look at this, even now, I'm not trying to do it like that, but it did appear to become more shaky. So that's my letter A. This is how I like to write my letter A. And then sometimes I do the small a, but I just write it bigger to look like a capital A. But really, that's it. Now, when we talk about extenders and loops and flourishes, I have a future class all about the flourishing, because that one is a little advanced. It's important to understand first how to compose your letters, and then we're going to go more advanced in the next class. But I want to tackle the very beginning here, the very basic, I should say. All right, so letter A, that's it. Letter B, thick stroke. Every time you would write or letter anything horizontal, okay, so going like this. So your strike through of your letter T's, the letter A, the letter, what else? Letter T, letter J, those tiny little loops that goes horizontal. That's where you also write very thin, or you letter very thin, apply light pressure. So you don't go thick. So for example, with the letter A, I'll do the letter A again. So upstroke. So every time you go horizontal, you go light also. So it's supposed to be thin as well, okay? So letter B, oh, I like to play around with my letter B. So in this workbook, you get samples of all the alphabet, and it also comes with a tracing sheet on top like this. So you can practice your letters. But honestly, if you write big like me, that might be a struggle. The workbook, I'm just being honest here. You might want to just get a separate sketchbook like this so you can practice your letters. Right. So I like to do this. This is how I did my letter B. Let's show you this. Thick stroke, right? And then I go up from the top, from the bottom. I'm sorry. I go light, almost like a letter P, right? And then I just add another loop. Now, there's something I want to talk to you about like this. So when you want to go artistic, when it comes to bounce lettering also, it's highly encouraged to play around with your letters. There is still a rule, even though you're breaking the rules when it comes to bounce lettering. There's still one rule when you're doing hand lettering, is that it is very important that your letters are legible, which means that people can read it, because that is a purpose of why you're doing, you're trying to put out a message out there. So sometimes this is a bit confusing when there's a very big gap between your letters like that. So you might want to correct it and make it like this. I like to show examples because sometimes we don't realize it like this. So you don't want to have a big gap in between. So make sure that it still looks like a letter B. So again, I'm going to do that. Letter B like this. Belle said she writes pretty big. I do. I write big too, Belle. It's okay. So with the small b, And then from the bottom, go up again to create that oval and then extender. Or sometimes I would normally just write it one downstroke. So if you want to be simple like that, then if you want to add something extra special, then just add a loop there. And to be honest with you, if you're going to write a word, you're actually going to add a loop. You can't just say like this and like this, because there's no way that you're going to connect another letter here, right? Unless they're just written separate like that. But if you want to connect your letter B and your letter E, you need this loop right here. B, connect it. So you're setting up for your next letter like that. So it's all about those extenders, those extra strokes to connect your letters. So letter C is really very basic. That's all I create with my letter C. Even the capital or the small letter C. Now letter D, I write this as almost like I'm writing the letter B. So just one downstroke. And then connect it. If you're going to connect a letter next to it, don't forget your extender strokes like that. Or I would write it just like the other one, downstroke. And from the bottom, I go up and I go add that loop. And that's my letter D. So for the small D, I start with my oval. Again, heavy and then light. So it's like an oval shape like this. Like that. If you want to be a little fancy, you start with your oval. This is the next step that I want you to practice. It's like almost adding a loop, almost like writing a letter L, right? And that's what it's all about. It's just connecting one stroke after the other, because this is just like the basic oval stroke. And there's actually a term, which I'm going to need my thing in here. This is called the ascending loop right here. That's part of your practice stroke. That's why it's important to understand it. And then you have a descending loop, because letters are composed of these basic strokes. So if you want to go the typical nothing flourished and just brush lettered script, you have the oval, and then you're going to do your ascending loop, and that's your letter D. If you want to do a letter G, you start with your basic stroke oval, and then you do your descending loop. That's the basics. But that's the reason why I wanted you to practice those basic strokes, because you're going to understand and realize that using the basic strokes, you need that one stroke connect with another stroke, and that's how you compose your letters. And then once you start composing your letters, one letter, and then you start composing your words. All right, I'm going to go write and finish. So let's do letter D. I'm going to write it all again. So we have one whole page in here, and then you can screenshot it after the end so you can practice it also. Okay, I'm going to trying to write neat. My letter A. My letter B. My letter C. I think C is so sad. It's so simple. But nothing wrong with that. E. I'll write it two different ways so you can see how I write it. And then just a very simple small letter E, right? Again, same, like how I would draw my letter F, like a serif way. And then sometimes I'll do the fancy F like this. Oh my gosh, letter D. That's right, Nikki. Sorry. Sometimes I have to sing A, B, C, D, C. I missed the D. Let's do letter D here. That. It's not going to fit. It's not going to fit. Thanks, Nikki, for saving me. All right, letter F. And then we'll do the letter G. Okay, I'm trying not to miss a letter, Lane. Nikki's here anyway to save me. Letter H. See, look at my letter H. I feel like this one, I could have made it a little bit longer because it can look like a letter N, right? So those are the little things that even now when I'm lettering, that's why I have practice sheets and I have, sketchbooks, because I still practice, and I can still see what are the things that, I can improve that or I can make that better. So, and it's okay. Letter I. Definitely the letter I. I don't think I ever done my letter I like this because it looks like a letter J too. The letter I is much shorter like this, and the letter J is much longer, but I never use the letter I like this in real life. Maybe I do sometimes. I should say never. Okay, so letter J, I'd make it like this. Like what I said, if you're going to do the script, like this. So basically they connect. That's a difference from the letter I. You have a smaller loop. This one's longer and it connects with your descending loop down there. And this is how I do my letter small j. Okay. Start with a downstroke like this. Okay. Okay's pretty. Sometimes I would do a loop like this too. Start with that. See how there's so many different ways that you can draw a letter? This is a small k. Like that. Now L, I'm not trying to be biased here. It's my, so I like to play around with the letter L. Sometimes I'd write it like this, or I'd draw it like that. Sometimes I draw it capital like this. Sometimes I draw it without the loop, which is kind of just like this. That. Or sometimes I try to make it where this one is smaller and the loop down there is bigger, like this. Oops, I didn't go thick enough. Like that. So play around. Again, the more you practice, the more you're really going to find out ways that you like the most. Oh, you know what? I really like it. I really like this style. Then you practice it more, then it becomes yours. All right, letter M. M2, I'd like to draw this different. Sometimes like that. With my small L, I didn't write the small L. I'm going to go here. Just very simple. It's almost like just the descending loop, honestly. It's very simple. That's how I do my L. Sometimes it's just bigger or sometimes it's smaller loop, but typically this looks like that. Now, M, I tried to play around with the letter M. For some reason, I like it. And letter M is also very good letter to practice for your thin and your thick strokes, because as you can see, you get a lot of loops. So you get a lot of chance to practice that ooh, thin and then thick and thin and then thick. And again, until you build that muscle memory, it's just just gonna know it. Your brain and your hands are already coordinated. They know what to do. It's kind of like not thinking about it. But of course, it's not always going to be perfect, because I have moments where like, oh, that just did not turn out the way I would like it to be. So sometimes like that, sometimes like this. So like, for example, this one is so imperfect. I want you to see it so you can see what I'm talking about. See this one, but it doesn't mean that I didn't get it in the beginning. I can't fix it. You sure can. So you just have to add a little bit in there to make sure that that connection is much better. So small. Like that. And we do letter N. Small n is very simple. I think this is all I do. Sometimes I do my capitals like this. Like that. But typically, all right, I'm going to zoom it out so you can take a screenshot for those of you who would like to just kind of take a screenshot of this. All right. Okay, I know I have 2 more minutes, but I want to finish the letters for you guys. So letter O, here we go. O, good stroke to practice. Thick and then thin. And then with the letter O, I think I just play around with that loop. Sometimes it's close to the top and it's smaller. I think it just depends on the next letter that I'm going to write or draw. That's where I kind of make a decision if I'm going to swoop it down a little bit more or stay on top with the loop. So it just depends on the next letter that I am going to write. O, P. Yes, I'm singing the alphabet. M, O, P. So downstroke, kind of like the letter B here. So just like that. Or sometimes if you want to, you can just do a downstroke like this and then add like an extra here. And then you just kind of fix it if you want to go fake it till we make it. I think that's like that. But if you really want to do this connecting, so you're going to start with very light hand, go up, and then add your heavy stroke and then close to P like that. Or sometimes if you want to go extend that, I hardly do like that. So small P's are just it's almost the same, but just smaller like that. Or maybe from here, extend it up and like that. Now letter Q is almost just like the oval, or I mean the letter O, and then just add my tail like that. I never really do this letter Q. That's a script letter Q in real life. I don't do it like that because it really is just hard to read. So I just do the print Q and I just kind of play around with my loop to add some extra fanciness to it like that. And that's, and just me being honest with you and how I really would write these letters. Letter Q is just like this. Now, here's another lesson I think it's important for us to talk about. This can look like an F also because letters are so similar, again, because we're using the same strokes over and over, the basic strokes, right? So this letter Q right here, because this loop is too big, sometimes it just depends on what word you're writing. Sometimes it might hard to read this. It can look like a letter F, especially if the distance of your letters so close together. So you want to try to make this one a little thinner, like this. So much easier to see. Okay, LQ R. R is just like a letter P. We do the downstroke like this. I guess I just play around with the loop. Sometimes I make the top just slightly smaller and then make the bottom grand and big, or do the opposite and make this one really big and make the bottom just smaller. So notice that just playing around with the different loops or sizes, it will give you, very different results. So letter R, I think small r is my favorite letter. Does that make sense? I think I just like it. I really like writing the letter R. And again, kind of same with this one. I play around with this loop right here of the letter R. Sometimes I make it overly big, like extra big, like this. Sometimes a whole lot bigger. So just depends. And sometimes it's just like that, or sometimes there's no loop at all. So you go up, thin stroke, go slightly down, just like this. But again, I think the small r is where I really play around a lot. So R and then S, like this. Sometimes, normally I write my letter S like this or like this with a loop. Very seldom do I do the letter S like this. And with the letter S too, same with my other letters. I play around with the loop. Sometimes there's no loop or sometimes it's extravagant. Like this. Or like that. So those are the little things that you're going to notice when you're writing your letters and practicing them over and over again. You try to play around with the loops and say, oh, you know what? I really like it when it's big like this, or I like it when it's smaller, or, just play around and have some fun. All right, now letter T, again, kind of like the letter F. If I am in the mood, I would do the fancy T like this, but I would normally just really letter it like this way. So it's almost like a print, but what I do to make it look like a script is I play around with the loops. So sometimes I would circle around here and just like that, right? So just all those little endings, the connecting, the flare. So even when you're coming from a very heavy pressure, again, almost kind of like lifting that brush to get that thin stroke in the very end to create the very thin strokes like this. It's almost like you're lifting it. So stretch and lift and then use the tip of the brush. All right, for small t is that cross bars this is where I play around the most. But then we're going to have a different separate class for this one when it comes to flourishes, because again, that's a little advanced, but it's always fun. Flourishes is they're fun to create. So sometimes it's just small, sometimes it's just straight. So it just depends on the day. All right, so let's take a quick screenshot of this one. Ready? We're almost done. All right. Thank you all so much for joining. I really did enjoy this class. I think when I'm doing a hand lettering class, it's almost like sometimes I feel like, did they learn anything? Because hand lettering is really something that it really does take a lot of practice. And it gets frustrating when you don't get something, from the very beginning. But I think with a whole lot of practice, really, you can see an improvement. And something that I always tell my students is important to have a sketchbook. It's really important to have like a simple sketchbook. It doesn't have to be an expensive one, but this is a place where you're going to see your own progress. V, W, kind of like the letter M. This is a good letter to practice because you have that thick and then thin, thick and then thin again. Like this. W, and we'll come to letter X. Not my favorite, but here we go. I start with that. I'm going to do that again so you guys can see it. So sometimes I just kind of like go really look at my hands. It's almost here on top, but not really here. So here, like that. And then I lift and use the tip. And this one, just really the tip to create that thin. And then for the small X, just the same. And if you're going to connect it with another letter, this is where you would attach your connecting stroke. And letter Y, I think again, the Y, I want you to practice with the loops. This is where you're going to play around with this one. If you want your understroke smaller and your loops bigger, or you want it to be bigger and your loops smaller. Right? So you get like super crazy result here if you want it more stretched down here like that. I always do this. I like to show the different ways that you can write it because I want you to really practice everything when you're, when you're doing your practice at home. Is I want you to play around with this different loops, is because this is where you're going to find your own style when you start practicing different ways. And for the letter Y, again, it's the same. Do I stretch it up? Do I bring it down? It's all about that loops. X, Y. Oh, now we're down to the letter Z. Like that. Let's try that letter Z again so we can see this. And then we bring it up. Sometimes I would just write it like a letter Z, like that too. And a small Z. Again, with that loop, notice it. You can also add some flourish here. I can't help it. I want to show you. And then just bring it up more. So that's it. But I hope that this was insightful because I know that was a lot of information for an hour. Sometimes, when you get bombarded with a lot of information, it's really hard for everything to sink in. But I think, with this class being recorded, we can watch it again and kind of go back to some of the letters that you might have missed. But the moral of the class is that it is fun. Bounce lettering is supposed to be very freeing from the traditional calligraphy. And I really encourage you to keep going because 10, 11 years ago, I didn't know anything about art. And I just finished a book and a workbook for you all to practice. And so if I can do it, I know that you can too. And this is my purpose, I think, in life, is to create something simple that is relatable. I want my classes to be simple, but very insightful. So I hope that I brought you just that. I would like to thank everybody for joining in this afternoon. It's been such a pleasure. On behalf of Faber-Castell USA, my name is Leibella Ralston, Michael Stores and Faber-Castell, and myself. We thank you so much for joining in, and stay creative and stay happy. I hope to see you next week, same time, 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. We have a fun Galaxy lettering class, and we're doing a brush lettering class, but a whole totally different brush lettering class. But it's going to be a whole lot of fun too. So see you next week, guys. Stay creative and stay happy, everybody. Bye-bye.